do not believe in forgiveness. When I heard that he killed himself, there was absolutely no sadness that his life was gone. None.
What's for supper, dear? Leftovers?
And there still isn't. There's a big protective mechanism that I've developed over these years, and I often call it my mask. I keep the mask on because I think when it does fall off, I feel like I've lost a little bit, like I'm letting him get to me. The minute I let myself fall apart, let myself not be strong, is the minute he wins. And he's already taken enough, and I'm not going to let him take anything else.
Police are still searching along a 700-mile stretch of highway from Pennsylvania through Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Nebraska.
He described bell-shaped sewer connectors made of concrete. He described fence. He described, a wood pile, things of that nature.
I had been saying for 2.5 years that this was not how it was supposed to end. I had started becoming just a detective and trying to figure out where exactly they were. I was persistent. I could not give up. It was now all up to me. This is a picture of our wedding back in 1984. I don't have many pictures of him around, and this is one of them, and I don't look at it very often. I thought I'd gotten rid of all these. I met him in high school. He was the son of a U.S. diplomat from Nicaragua, and he pursued me to some extent and out of college. At the time, it was like, oh, this is good. I'm going to have this life that, was in my plan. You go to college, I'm going to have a job, and we can have this perfect little family, and I was on track for that. The hardest part of looking at this is thinking that we both looked happy, we both looked like this was normal, and it's very hard to think that I actually loved him or liked him. I think if I could say something to the younger me, it would certainly be follow your gut and pay attention. Maybe be stronger than what, you were. Phones in college in the 80s, everybody didn't have a phone. There was the dorm phone. But I was a RA, I was an assistant, so I had a phone in my room. The summer before my senior year, I was out one Friday night and he was calling. When I came into the dorm, I went upstairs and I could hear my phone ringing. And other people that came out of their rooms came out and were kind of angry. They said, that phone has been ringing all night. Can you make it stop or answer it? As soon as they told me the phone had been ringing all night, I knew who it was. I knew it was him calling. Apparently, he just let the phone ring and ring and ring. And it's in a dorm, and these rooms are not soundproof. Hello? When I picked up the phone, I was annoyed that he was bothering other people. And I'm like, have you been calling all night? And what's going on? And at first you think maybe there's something wrong or he needs something. Is everything okay? He goes, I was just waiting for you to come home and I was just laying here, so I was just letting it ring. I said, yeah, but everybody can hear you. Everybody can hear the phone ringing. You can't do that. It was like he didn't get it. He didn't see that what he was doing might be annoying to other people. he was bored and I should be there to talk to him. He just was so persistent in wanting to talk to me that he didn't know enough to just stop. And that bothered me, that, why would you go to that level of calling and calling and calling and calling without thinking that that didn't make sense? But I don't think I saw this as obsessive at the time. I think I saw this as just more of a lack of compliance with like the norms and what people do. I figured he just didn't understand. It just seemed... The summer before we got married, he became very, very kind of aggressive and pushy and wanted things his way. I was in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins, and I remember we would spend a lot of time together, and we'd be walking, and it was an area that I didn't know much about. I wasn't familiar with where he was taking me or where we were going. Where are we going?
What is your problem, Terry?
We were getting in an argument, and I have no idea what. I'm sure it was something pretty benign, and he started getting really angry that I wanted to do something that he didn't want to do.
Just shut up, Terry.
I don't think he hit me that night. He did put his hands on me, and he just threatened that he was going to leave me there. And I was going to be stuck, and he didn't care. This was someone I hadn't seen before. He had always been this very nice, soft-spoken, good person. But I was very fearful that he was just going to leave me there. I didn't know the area. I didn't have money on me. It was dark. I don't think it was a idle threat. I felt like if I didn't do something, he was going to walk away. And that was probably the first time that I had to soothe the situation.
I didn't mean to upset you. I'm sorry.
And he didn't leave me there. And then he's very apologetic.
Let's go.
So now he's pretending that everything's back to normal. But you shouldn't make me mad like that. It almost like it leaves a little, just a dent in you. And so you say, oh, well, he's probably right. Maybe I should be careful how I treated people. And maybe there was a part of me that wondered, and I'm not the most experienced 20-year-old person out there. I said, maybe this is something that relationships have to deal with. I wasn't that aware that that wasn't the way you were supposed to be. Our honeymoon was kind of an all-inclusive honeymoon resort. I mean, all the way down to the heart-shaped bathtub with the whole thing, which should have been fun, but he must have had a different idea of a honeymoon. When he was drinking, he wasn't as fun to be with because he became very self-centered. We would go out, we'd meet another couple, and they talked about smoke a pot. They said, come on, let's go. And he pulled me aside, trying to get me to join in.
Come on.
Be bothered with that. Then he kind of handed it to me, and, oh no, come on, you gotta try it. He's very pushy and persistent, and it's my fault that he's not happy.
Why do you have to ruin everything?
It became more and more conflict. He was definitely angry that I didn't want to do it. I felt at that point he was kind of forcing me into a situation he knew I didn't want to be in. I'm not comfortable with this. It was just a really bad, uncomfortable night. And it wasn't necessarily violent, but it was just me. It was all about what he wanted and what I should do because of what he wanted. This wasn't what it's supposed to be. I shouldn't feel this way on my honeymoon. It was all about him. He would want to do things that were uncomfortable and that hurt me, and didn't want to take no for an answer.
I said shut your mouth.
I saw the role of power in the relationship as really being about him getting his way. I think he needed to feel he had power. I think he needed to feel like he was in charge. We had decided to take a vacation. I think it was someplace in New Hampshire, and one of the routes to get there was very open and scenic.
Look at this jerk.
Someone was on his bumper that he didn't like, and so instead of pulling over or doing it, he decided he was going to slow down. I'm telling him that you can speed up here, so you need to go a little faster, and all of a sudden he just decides he's going to go slower.
Just let them pass.
And he starts now driving 25, 30 miles an hour. What are you doing? And there's no way to go around anybody. And now cars are piling up behind him. And I said, you can't just keep driving so slow. What are you trying to do? He didn't say anything. There was probably 20 or 30 cars behind us. And every one of them was like honking at him. And it didn't bother him. We were probably an hour from the end of this road. Car for that long of time while he's just being a jerk.
Please, just drive. Just speed up.
After about 10 minutes of telling him this is ridiculous, you need to go faster, finally I just shut up. And it was just silent the whole rest of the way home. I can only assume what he was getting out of it was an opportunity to have power. It was about him being able to do something to other people that they couldn't do anything about. And he was in charge. He was in control of the whole situation. When it came to intimacy and sex, he was very much all about him. He was persistent and didn't want to take no for an answer until he got what he wanted.
Manuel, I don't know. Just trust me.
That he wanted to have what he wanted to have.
I don't know if I want to do this.
My job was to please him, so it was more of a dominant, submissive type of thing.
Just relax.
Manuel, no.
He would want to do things that were uncomfortable and that hurt me.
Relax and do what I tell you.
There was a situation where he forced himself on me after I told him, no, we're not doing this, and he decided he was going to do it anyway.
Manuel, I said stop, please.
Shut your mouth.
And that's, in a marriage, there was no such thing as marital rape at that point. You just put up with it. It wasn't a consensual, loving relationship. It felt like it was one-sided, and I felt like I was being used.
So why did you stay?
So why did I stay? In the early phases, the reason I stayed, I think, was more based on that I thought I could fix this. Because here I am with a whole ton of experience in my life, and now I'm in this relationship, and I'm still questioning what's normal, what's not. It wasn't long before I was pregnant with Sarah, and she was born in 1988. And it was like, well, I can't divorce, because then everyone would know that I made a mistake. So I got to fix it. That's what you do in marriage anyway, is, you fix it. You don't just bail. But the little worm in my head was,
what's for supper, dear? Leftovers?
either that or we could come up with something different. I think he in his mind had a very traditional role of the man in charge. Anytime that I would challenge that or push back on it, he became aggressive. His tone of voice would change, his demeanor would change, and it was this sign or this feeling that he was going to be mad. I don't know what triggered or escalated, but I remember he was now starting to be angry. So I'm thinking, I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to pick up Sarah and leave. And when I did that, he said, well, don't bother coming back. And I left with her, and I remember driving around for a while and then trying to come back. He locked me out. That was his final word of the whole matter.
Come on, Manny.
He was going to make sure I stayed out, and I was going to pay for it. Who does that? Who locks your wife and child out just to make a point, or to be, the one in charge? I mean, is he that mean that he would do that?
Well.
Now what do I do? So I go back and I get in the car and decide to go to the hotel for the night. I remember just going in and have tears rolling down my eyes and checking into a hotel with my baby, not knowing what I should do next. I knew at that point what the message was. I knew what he was saying. I'm the one that gets to decide what's going to happen. But I didn't feel like it was a permanent thing. We'd be able to resolve it, get back on track like we had in the past.
Manuel, stop. That's not what I'm
That
saying.
is what you're saying.
He would push me down, and then he would hit me across the face.
No, Manny, please.
Once you have a child, it gets a lot more complicated. I really thought it might be a turning point. I think a lot of people do, that you think that having a child is going to make things better. But it didn't happen because she was eating and hungry. And I was nursing her again at dinner time.
She's hungry, Manuel.
She didn't want her around. Why do I have to feed her at dinner?
But do you really have to do that in front of her?
She's a baby. I thought it was odd that he didn't see the needs of this baby ahead of his needs to have, me to himself. I think that's what the problem was, is he wanted my undivided attention while we had dinner together. And I would push back on him and say, well, that ain't gonna happen. How can you not put the needs of your children first?
Why can't you just listen to me and stop arguing for once?
I remember the glass going across the kitchen. When the glass was thrown, I don't feel like it was aimed at me, but I knew it was to teach me a lesson. And then it became, you clean that up. It was more about him having that control to make me clean it up than it was that I think he wanted to hurt me. So now I'm starting to clean up the glass, and he's standing there, and I'm trying to be calm and trying to keep it together, and then that was it. It was over. I'm starting to see that he really can escalate. I'm now starting to think, what else might he do? Is the next one going to be aimed at me? But then there'd be 2 months or a month and nothing would happen. So you kind of start letting yourself settle back in until something happens again, and then you don't even realize that it's kind of worsening. When he didn't get his way or have the power to control the situation, that is where the problems always landed. With the violence, the pushing back, he needed to be the one controlling what was going to happen. In March of 91, I was pregnant with Philip. There was an argument that we had. He wanted to go do something with Sarah. And I said, no, it wasn't a good time. It was either right before lunch or right before a nap. And he was argumentative with me that I was bossing him around and telling him what should happen and not happen.
I don't want to wake her up.
You think I don't know what's best for my own child?
He was escalating very quickly.
You're saying I'm a bad father?
Well, stop. That's not what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying.
He started shoving me towards the den.
Stop.
You have the nerve to call me.
And I was telling him, knock it off, don't, leave me alone.
Don't tell me to calm down.
No, Manny.
He hit me hard enough that I had a black eye. And the thought that he would have hit me while I was pregnant just still baffles my mind. I said, just get out of here, just leave. He goes, well, I'm leaving, but I'm taking Sarah. And so he picked up Sarah and was heading to his car and went outside. And I followed him and I said, you're not taking her.
Manuel, stop. Put her down.
And he hit me again. And the neighbors had seen that. And within 5 minutes of this still arguing, the police came because they had called the police. He was ordered to leave and had to stay away for 48 hours. I remember him calling that evening and saying that we need to get together and talk about how we can resolve this. He was calm, he was apologetic, and he immediately said, you'll need to talk to the prosecutors to have the charges dropped. I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do, but he had promised we'd go to some counseling. He had promised that we would work together because we had another baby coming. And I did believe him, but I shouldn't have. He used to like watching James Bond movies, and he decided he was interested in guns. Because he liked this James Bond type of gun, he went out and purchased that. He became very fascinated with his Beretta.
Look at this. It's just like from the movie.
He would literally admire it, like it was a piece of artwork.
It's beautiful.
He handled it like you would handle something fragile and pretty. He would ask me if I wanted to hold it, but I didn't appreciate it. Why do you need a gun? I think he enjoyed knowing that he had one. When you own a weapon like that, you have power. And he decided he wanted a second one. I just remember saying that has to stay away from the kids. Up in the closet in a locked box, and there was no way that was going to be anywhere where the kids could get it. I didn't ever think that that would be something that I would regret later. It just never bothered me as much as it probably should have. They were the guns he ended up using. He wasn't talking about. He was involved in some things that were just now getting really weird. I felt like he might have cared about me in the beginning, but as things progressed, I was seeing things, they stretched beyond what I knew he was already kind of like. And it made me wonder, was he really this strange, this weird? We had a computer in our bedroom, and he would be spending a lot of time on it. It was just noticeable that he was doing something that he wasn't talking about. So I started looking to see what he was doing on the computer and saw that he was involved in some things that were just now getting really weird. And they were, online chats with this submission dominance world, like very pornographic. And then some of them were extremely disturbing. The conversations were all focused on dominance. He would tell them to refer to him as master and sir. It was very much on what he expected of the woman to do for him. It was a chance for him to be in control, and I think that's what he wanted. It was kind of a side of him that I had seen before, the part of him that I didn't like. I was disgusted with the fact that he was like that and that I was still attached to him, but I'm realizing that there's no happy ending to this story. This is not the person that is going to be a good fit for me ever. And I know that I need to do something. This is a page out of a journal that I wrote, and I had provided a photocopy of this entire journal to the investigation, January 2000. After a long and stressful year, I told Manuel that I wanted to end the marriage. M said he would move out. He asked if I was desperate and asked if I could wait until May after taxes. I agreed. I was very surprised when he didn't push back or argue, but he would move out. May. No sign of moving. I've been living on the couch in the living room. M said he wasn't ready to move. It was like I was checking every month. Was this going to ever happen? August, I confronted M again about moving. I said I would move. I told the kids and started searching for a 3-bedroom place. I didn't move until September, so it was 9 months that I spent living on the couch and in this really tense environment. After I moved out, it took about a year before the divorce was finalized, and we did it through mediation, so it was a very challenging process. He was going to have the kids every other weekend, but I had started to date. By the following fall, I was very much together with this man that I'd met, happier than I'd ever been in my life. We were dating and found out we were pregnant. So in 2003, we decided that we would get married in June. And it wasn't until I became involved with this man that Manuel became much more difficult. He was trying to keep doing things his way. He was really angry that there was a child support order. Really, really angry that he was supposed to contribute to some of this stuff, and he would threaten to not pay me child support. Manuel was very angry. Me moving on in my life was probably a big hit to his ego.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
I think he was feeling very threatened.
Manuel?
At that point, we were going to get married. So now we're looking at calendar and, which weekend did I have the kids? Which weekend were they with their father? And so by the time we came down to it, and we ended up on a Sunday, we ended up on June 15th, which was Father's Day. Probably wasn't the brightest and the best decision. Wasn't meant at all to be hurtful or to be vindictive. It was my weekend with the kids, and I knew that he wouldn't have been flexible at all on one that was supposed to have been his weekend. But he did express that he thought I had picked Father's Day on purpose just to be mean. Well, I said it has nothing to do with being mean. You're welcome to spend all day Saturday with the kids. You're welcome to have them a week. It's just the best day that worked for us. I can never say that I would have guessed this in a million years, ever. You protect your kids, and you shouldn't have to protect them from their father. Coming up on July 4th weekend, the plan was they would be spending it with their father, and I'd be going to Maine, and it didn't seem unusual at all. Reminded Philip that I'd be picking him up on Sunday. He's going to go to a sleepover camp, and told him to give me a call if they needed anything, and it was very routine, see you later type thing. I dropped them off at their father's house, and I didn't expect to hear from them because it normally wasn't the routine. the Saturday, July 5th, I get a call from Sarah's boyfriend asking if I had heard from her.
I haven't. Why?
And then he says, there was a bad fight last night with Sarah and her father, and we haven't heard from Sarah today. She wanted to go with her boyfriend to a 4th of July party, and Manuel wasn't going to let her go, and it was this big fight. From what her boyfriend said, a really bad fight.
They're probably just out for the day.
It didn't alarm me. He could have taken them to the beach. It's really hot out. They could be anywhere. I had started to wonder, but I wasn't worried. This is Sarah on July 4th, 2003. That was right before the fight or the argument. She had her braces off. You know, this was clearly, she was very, very happy that day. Her boyfriend's mother gave me this picture. I remember she told me, she goes, I never take pictures. For some reason, I had a camera, and it was a disposable camera, so I decided to just take pictures. She even said, I don't know why I took just one of Sarah. You know, it was her family event. So deep down, I'm so glad I have it. Sunday morning, I'm getting ready to go over and pick up Philip for camp. And I get there at noon, 1 o'clock, and nobody's there. The car's not there, nobody's there. And honestly, I'm really mad. Tried to call, no answers, nobody's phone, everything's kind of dead, silent. Is he just being this much of a jerk? You know, that he's trying to make it so difficult for me. The shift from being angry to fear was almost a gradual sinking feeling. 4 or 5 o'clock, nobody's there still. I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And I called where he was working. And I spoke with somebody there, and they told me that he was no longer working, that he had been fired. And I think that's when I started to really panic. So I'm trying to think, what do I do? So I went to the police that night. I expressed concern for their well-being. And I don't know where they are. I think something could be wrong. Can you do a welfare check? They found food just left on the table, you know, just left. And it made me wonder, would they have left a dinner on the table, you know? What the heck is going on? Yeah, I was very concerned. Maybe he's going to take them and go live someplace else. And they found the gun case that was open on the bed. That triggered them to get more information. Early on, they had tracked the credit cards. They saw stops for gas, stops for Walmart, another stop for gas. They told me that they could see a trip all the way across the U.S. And I said he was going to get to California and turn left and go to Mexico. If he was angry enough at me, I think that would have made sense, that that's what he would have done, is to take them to Mexico where he could, you know, start over and live with them and disappear.
Nice Christmas gift we got from Reston, Virginia.
Reston?
Now that's good stuff.
They called me and they said, he's in California, and we don't know if the kids are with him. But you need to be prepared to go to California. They started talking about whether he owned anything that would have your children's DNA on it. children are still missing. I don't know where they are. I think something could be wrong. This is the National Registry, the flyer that went out for the missing kids. Philip and Sarah were last seen watching a fireworks display with their father at Memorial Field in Concord on July 4th, 2003. Sarah has a mole on her forehead and her ears are pierced. Last time Philip was seen, he had braces on his teeth. Just seeing this, it's just a reminder of how big this was and how awful it was. You know, you see missing children and all of a sudden this is your own kids. It's like, you know, we used to joke about your face could be on a milk carton, and yet here we were looking at my two kids, that this is going national in hopes that someone can find them. Friday morning, I got a call from the Attorney General's office, and they have a victim's advocate. They told me, we'll be over to see you. I remember looking at my husband saying, something's wrong, this isn't good. And they bring the victim's advocate, and then they tell me that they have him and they don't have the kids.
They didn't find Sarah and Philip with him.
What? What does that mean?
And they started talking about whether he owned guns.
No, that can't be. They were locked up at all times.
And the way they described it, there was enough evidence in the car that they knew the kids were killed. But they didn't have their bodies. I argued with them about, how do you know? They're telling me there's brain matter in that car and that there was so much blood that had pooled underneath the carpet that there was no way that anybody had survived. And, you know, and you're hearing that and you're saying, it just didn't make sense. I wasn't going to believe it. Then they suddenly are asking me for DNA. Do you have anything that would have your children's DNA on it? Never, never, ever, ever do you want to be asked for DNA for your kids. Ever. That had DNA on it. This ponytail holder has Sarah's hair on it, but she could have borrowed it from another kid. I actually had one of Philip's baby teeth and something from Sarah's hairbrush. And I told him that I didn't have it right now, but her baby book had a lock of her hair. And they said, well, we're not going to take that now, but if we need it, we'll let you know. I don't know why I still didn't believe it. They sat down with us about 4 or 5 days later to give us the details. I don't do well thinking about what happened in that car. He shot Sarah first. Then he said that his gun jammed and that he had to then retrieve the other gun that he was carrying. And so now Philip is sitting there. He has witnessed this. And was it seconds? Was it minutes? I don't know. I can't even fathom what happened at that point. That he had to sit there and watch Sarah be shot and know that what was coming towards him. They tell me he had defensive wounds. How he tried to dodge the bullets and eventually he was shot in the head. They both were shot in the head.
Tell me a story, Philip.
there was a little boy named Max. And he kept living to the end.
He drove a full day with them just sitting there in the car. And, he didn't even say that he covered him up with a blanket or anything like that. And he stopped at a store and he stopped for gas. It was clear what his intent was. He had bodies that he had to bury, so he bought duct tape, garbage bags, a shovel, and a pickaxe, and some snacks. He took the time to wrap them in garbage bags, and then he made sure he told us that he made a cross out of duct tape. He was even complaining that when he went to move the bodies out of the car, that they had become stiff. They'd been sitting in that position so long that rigor had started to set in, and that he had to bury them sideways. He had to change the way he dug because they weren't going to lay flat or straight. He wanted sympathy for how hard it was for him to do this, to bury the children. And that just disgusted me. There's only one thing at that point that was worse than the outcome, where that was just to me the ultimate act of selfishness.
Manuel Goering, the father charged with murdering his two children, arrived at the Concord, New Hampshire airport almost 2 weeks after his arrest in California and was quickly shuttled to the police station.
The press got a hold of it, and it was the craziest time. We were almost locked into our it was everywhere. I could turn on the TV and see this everywhere I looked.
Weeks before the children disappeared, Manuel Goering was in a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife. Court records show that he refused to abide by a mediated agreement regarding the custody.
I wasn't prepared. It's not a good thing when you see your headline in the newspaper and it talks about that you're a victim of, domestic abuse. There's no turning that off. And I think that was a point when I realized I had to just face this head on.
Manuel Goering has been indicted by the Hillsborough County Grand Jury for 2 counts of first-degree murder relating to the death of his children.
It was just the constant request for interviews, but at this point, we're still looking for the bodies.
Because even though Mr. Goering has been charged, the investigation is not over. We still have not found the bodies.
He didn't know where he buried them. He had that irritating ability to remember details. The grass was very tall. The grass had these seeds on it that were this color. And now he doesn't know what state he was in. Whether he'd been driving for 8 hours or 26 hours. I knew the whole time he knew where they were. And he was in jail and he kept lying and never willing to say where they were. That was just to me the ultimate act of selfishness. Oh, it's disgust. There's nothing I like about hearing his voice or seeing him. He never would be that happy looking unless the camera was on him. He could pretend he was the good guy. That was definitely not how he normally behaved. He was very awkward with them. It was like he didn't know how to connect with them. He did not look comfortable at all. He looked like he was awkwardly trying to do what he was supposed to do in the moment. It felt awkward to watch it, but I think the video camera was on and he was just pretending to act for a video camera. He was definitely the type of person in a social situation that came across as just, I'm such a good person. Just seeing them together, here he was trying to be this Father of the Year idea, and knowing what he ended up being and doing to those kids, it gives you that, I almost could say nauseous feeling. That's just, it's sickening. He was in jail and he kept lying. I hadn't seen him. I hadn't talked to him. It was the victim's advocate from the Attorney General's office, and she says, Manuel killed himself in jail. There was absolutely no sadness that his life was gone. None. And there still isn't. But there was a tremendous sadness that his death, the chances of me finding those kids' bodies was really slim.
The two children were last seen alive on July 4th, attending a fireworks show with their father. Goering, after that holiday, traveled some 3,200 miles in 6 days, crossing the country. Authorities now believe that somewhere in the Midwest are the remains of his two children.
I can tell you that the searches that have been conducted have not yielded any results. We have not located the bodies as of this date. We're continuing to ask the public for their assistance.
When I found out that he had killed himself, I asked, did you find anything in his cell? Did he leave a note that told us where they were? And she says, we haven't found anything. There's only one thing at that point that was worse than the outcome, was knowing that he buried them someplace and didn't have the guts to say where they were. When he killed himself, that's when I thought, I'm not going to find him. We don't have any idea where they are, and I figured that's it. It wasn't going to be okay if it ended with them never being found and knowing they were buried somewhere in garbage bags. That was never, ever going to be okay for me. So it was now all up to me.
I drove maybe to the next place I could turn. What time in the afternoon? Somewhere around 2:30.
Well, why do you recall 2:30?
Because it was sunny and it was hot.
After his suicide, they just said, here, you can have whatever information you want. They didn't give me transcripts, but they let me come in and listen to him describe everything.
After you made the turn, how far did you go? Not very far. I was there a mile and a half, 2 miles. It's a dirt road, and then there's a woody area into it. It looks like abandoned property.
Got to listen to a lot of this, and I remember he was particular. And
probably 6 feet tall, and it had some kind of a pump, green pump, opening, and it looked like a handle opening, and then the rest of it was kind of rusted. There's a large building fairly close to it, a light yellow house.
That's, the type of detail I knew he remembered, but he was so evasive after this about what state it was. I don't know, was it Iowa, was it Ohio, was it Pennsylvania? And he pretended he didn't know. That was absolutely game. I knew he knew where they were. 2005, we decided that now it was up to us to find them. My husband and I decided to make the trip that Manuel had taken. I studied that map. I could still probably tell you every exit on Interstate 80 between Pennsylvania and Iowa. We were hauling across all those states. We had this placard on our car, help find Sarah and Philip Gehring, and people would see that. And there was unbelievable kindness that we were seeing from strangers as we went from town to town to town. We were a live feed on the 5 o'clock news, and that's what I wanted to have happen.
I'm not giving up. I'm giving it all I got right now. And I hope to have made some contacts that will be able to help me. Right now I need to focus on finding them.
This is going national. It was this hope, that this is it. Now we're going to find them.
Terry looks carefully from above, searching for the spot where her ex-husband, 44-year-old Manuel Gehring, may have buried Philip and Sarah.
My whole mission for those 2 years was to get those kids home, because that was not how the story was going to end. It was like they said, tell Mom we're okay. And they did.
Investigators are asking for the public's help in finding the makeshift graves of the Gehring children.
He described bell-shaped sewer connectors made of concrete. He described fence. He described, wood piles, things of that nature.
The goal was to get people out there to look in their own backyards, in their own places. Now it's 2 years ago. I knew there were no longer an active investigation where people were out investigating leads on where the bodies were. The first phone call I got on that day was from the investigator on the case that was very, very involved. And he goes, Terry, I just wanted to let you know they found 2 bodies in Ohio. They're telling me that they were a male and a female, approximately the same age. They're buried together. The boy has braces, the younger one has braces, the girl doesn't. Now I know they found them.
Police say a woman walking her dog stumbled across the shallow graves when the dog broke away and began to dig.
This woman was out there searching. She had no experience in being a detective. She just saw that lady looking for her kids, and she said, I should go find them. And the dog runs off, and he goes and lays down. And she went over with her shovel, and that's where she found the kids. To finally hear that they were found, I knew that I had done what I was supposed to do. I was able to connect with this woman that found the kids, and this woman had shared with me this story that when they found him, we looked over into the field and there were these 2 deer. And they described the deer as one bigger than the other. And they stood there, they said for about 2 minutes that those deer just stood there staring at him. And the police officer that was with her even wrote me and said, it was like they said, tell Mom we're okay. And they did. So this is a picture of Sarah and Philip walking off. It's just a very, very sweet picture that I've always liked. It reminds me that they are with each other. We brought their ashes home. We had a very quiet private memorial service. In my home, I have a small area with some shelves, and that's where all their stuff is. Finding them and bringing them home always just felt like, to me, what I needed to do as a mom. Different life, new world, and this is my husband, Jim, and my girls. and felt like I was going to survive because of them. I think if it wasn't for them, I don't know what would have happened. I really don't. But there was still all the regret and sadness about what I didn't do as a mom. It was my duty to protect them, and I didn't do that. That's what you're supposed to do. A mom's supposed to protect her kids. And I didn't do that. I failed them. I'm not going to play what I should have done. I'm not going to say if I'd gotten married on a different day, if I had done something differently. But I can say that I should have protected them. I still, to this day, you have conversations, and I tell them how sorry I am. I am sorry that I failed them. I say things like, I wonder what you would have been. I wonder where you would be. I wonder what your world would be like. I see a lot of Sarah's friends, and it's amazingly hard to watch them. To watch them get married and have kids. And I talked to Sarah about, I wonder who you would have been with and what you would have done. Even just preparing to come here, I grabbed Philip's blankie and I'm holding on to it. And I'm sorry. I'm telling him that I'm sorry. But it's not what I did. It is what he did. And that's what I think keeps me upright. He's responsible for what happened. That is not my fault. He's done enough damage and enough hurt. And I am not going to let him ruin anything else.